Good evening, everybody, and welcome to my humble session on a topic that I see interesting, and you may see the same thing at the end of this session, which is, as you can see on the screen, Transformational Grammar. Maybe it's a surprise that this session is going to be in English. I haven't said this before, but I like it to be so. If you have any problem, you can tell me, so let's start. So before I start, let me ask you a question, and again, I'll be thankful and grateful if you share with me your ideas and you tell me the answer, because I'm not the one who's going to answer this. The question is, now we have Hamada with us. Why do you think, or what do you know generally about transformational grammar? And why do you think it's important that we study it and know it? So very briefly, because we have very limited time, let me tell you some ideas and then I will ask for your help. It's all about the rules that we can use and make use of to change the structure of a sentence. For example, I have a simple sentence, I have a compound sentence, a complex sentence, a complex compound or compound complex sentences. These are the types of sentences that most of us use when writing or translating or doing anything related to the language itself or composing a piece of writing, for example. So when I study these rules, and I'm sure that most of you know them, I will get used to make my writing and make my piece of writing very, very vibrant and full of different style. Okay, I will just do something. I will mute all of you as long as nobody's speaking except me. And when you want to add something, you can, of course, unmute yourself. So because our time, as I told you, is very limited, I will not go to the theoretical part and say that and talk about the role of Noam Chomsky in transformational grammar and how he contributed to the existence of this discipline and branch of linguistics. And let me start by the session objectives. So today, of course, this is just one session. We can call it a crash course to just be imposed to different topics and points that you may search for in the future. The session objectives are as follows. Recognize complex compound sentences and use them appropriately and correctly. These are the types of sentences. This is the most important part, and actually this is everything that we're going to talk about today. And then we will move to some deep structure, which we call nominal clauses, adverbial clauses, relative clauses. I think these nouns are not peculiar to you. You're familiar with all of them. However, rest assured that I'm going to give you some pieces of information that you can describe as golden information today. I think you may love this. So let me start and tell you that we have here the first thing, and one of the most important things here is this definition, which is what is a clause. Let me make it bigger for you. It's much better. So a clause is a group of words that can be analyzed into the elements subject, verb, object, complement, adverbial. And let me tell you something here, that when we have a clause, because I will ask you a lot in this session, and if you want to go further and read further about this information, you will meet these terms a lot. The clause, the phrase, nominal, adverbial, subordinate, matrix, and superordinate clauses. So if I'm going to say that this is a clause, this means only one thing. It means that I have a subject, I have a verb. And as for the rest of elements, which are the object, complement, adverbial here, this is not the most important parts. So if I have a subject, if I have a verb, this is called a clause. Let me show you an example here. My father rented a new office in London. So when it comes to analyzing this part, which is so simple, my father is the subject, rented is the verb, and new office, this is a direct object. It's an object, generally, which we call direct object, and then I have this prepositional phrase here, which is adverbial. And before I go on, let me ask you just a very quick question. Do you know the difference between adverb and adverbial? And kindly, again, I want you to unmute yourself and use the microphone at any time. Speak, answer. We don't have a correct answer, a wrong answer. This is just a discussion. So, do you know the difference between adverbial and adverb?
Honestly, I have no idea about the differences between adverb and adverbial, but I think it's speaking about the adverbial clause. by mentioning its adverbial, maybe?
Of course, we're speaking about adverbial clauses and so on, but this is not the part here. So let me explain it briefly. If I tell you that we have an adverbial, this is a function. So let me ask you a question in a different way. If I'm going to analyze it,
and the function.
yes, now I'm speaking about the functions of a sentence. If I'm going to analyze a sentence, I have only in the whole English language just 5 functions, which are subject, verb, object, complement, adverbial. So the adverbial is just a function as the subject, as the verb, as the object, as the complement. And this function can be made by an adverb or a prepositional phrase or adverbial phrase of something like a clause. So this is a function that can be... Again?
Not mandatory in the sentence can be omitted?
Yes.
Yeah, I got you. But I think yeah. Well, we were not in the same boat as I didn't understand the adverbial. The functions of the sentence, as I know, it is 5 functions: subject, predicate, which, as you mentioned, the verb, complement, adjunct, which is the adverbial.
So what you said is the, I'm sorry to interrupt, but what you said is the predicate. The predicate is not a function. So I can say that I have here my father, this is the subject of the sentence, and rented a new office in London, this is the predicate. It's something in Arabic like مبتدأ وخبر. So this takes us to a different part that I don't like to make the participants here just confused. We're going to Jeremy Monday and talk about, and in holiday and talk about the theme and ream, المبتدأ والخبر في اللغة العربية وما إلى ذلك. So just let me complete and we will answer all these questions and all these points. So the first part here, just I want you to know it's sufficient it's sufficient here to just understand that we have 5 different functions in a sentence: subject, verb, object, complement, adverbial. And then let's move to the types of a clause. A clause, as you all know, and this is so simple, this is so flagrant and obvious, easy: a simple sentence, a complex sentence, a compound or clause, compound, complex clause, or a sentence. So briefly here, the simple, I have only one subject and a verb. A complex, I have 2 clauses, each one has a name. So I will see you, this is the first clause. When I come back, this is the second clause. And since the second clause cannot be or cannot stand alone here, we call it subordinate. It's dependent on the first one. And I will see you is the matrix or the supernode clause. I will not explain more about this because I think you know it by heart. And then we move to the compound, which we have like, you can wait here. This is an independent. I will get the key. This is an independent clause. And we have here a coordinating conjunction. And this is so easy. So we have types of clauses. So what is the next part that I'd like to explain? Let me just move. I think there's something here in this program. How it works. By example, it will be more like clearer. So I have here a sentence in Arabic that says سيعطيها المال عندما توقع العقد. If I just look at this sentence, I have 2 main ideas, which is he will give her the money. This is the first idea. She signs the contract. This is the second one. So to make these 2 different sentences connected in just one, I make the following. And of course, you may have different ideas. He will give her the money when she signs the contract. Maybe one of you will say he will give her the money if she signs the contract. He will give her the money as soon as she signs the contract. Once she signs the contract, it's not about the conjunction or the tool that you're going to use. It's about just connecting the sentence. This is the first step to make 2 sentences, to convert 2 simple sentences into just one, which we call here complex sentence. So let me move to another thing, which is that the suggestion will be accepted is likely. This means it's likely that the suggestion will be accepted. So up till here, do you have any questions Is there anything vague, or do you want to understand anything? Just a question in the parts that we discussed or came through.
All clear.
Let's move. This is so important. It's the types of clauses. So when I look at a clause, I may categorize it depending on different things. But this is not the one that I want. It's here. Maybe this is a nominal clause, adverbial clause, relative clause. I will not waste much time here in this part because it's so easy and of course you understand it, but I will just ask a question and you can answer me to make it clear that you understand it very much. So what is a nominal clause? What is an adverbial clause? What is a relative clause? Mainly, I told you just short time ago that if I will say a clause, this means I have a subject, I have a verb at least. If I will say a clause, this means I have a subject, I have a verb. If I will say a nominal clause or a noun clause, it's the same thing by the way. This means that this clause occur in positions that are typical of nouns. So what is a nominal clause? It's a clause that occur in position that is typical of noun. For example, that he wants to blackmail you. We have the first sentence here. That he wants to blackmail you is obvious. Let me ask you a question. Where is the subject of this clause? So I have here in the chat that he wants to blackmail you. Thank you, Hamada. So Hamada says that he wants to blackmail you is the subject of this sentence, and then we have is the verb, and then we have obvious. May I ask, what is the function of the word obvious here?
That he wants to blackmail you is a subject.
Yes, that's correct. And I'm just asking about the obvious, the word obvious. What is the function of that?
Is a subject complement.
Thank you. So Abdullah says something and Hamada said something different. Abdullah says that the word obvious is an adjective and Hamada says that the word obvious is a subject complement. Actually, both of you are correct, but depending on the question that I answered, that I asked for. So I asked you about the function of the word. So this word, which is obvious is an adjective if I'm going to ask about the part of a speech. Is it a noun? Is it a verb? Is it an adjective? Is it a preposition? Is it an adverb? Something like this. But if I'm going to ask you about the function, you may answer this question only by five. You have 5 options: a subject, a verb, an object, a complement, adverbial. And here this word obvious is called subject complement. And I'm sorry if I say that I'm not going to explain what subject complement is, because this is not the core of this session. And of course, if I'm going to explain this, we will take maybe from 7 to 8 or maybe 10 sessions if I'm going to explain every word. So suffice it now that this word is not an adjective if I'm asking about the function. Let's go on to explain what is a nominal clause. I told you that a nominal clause is a clause that occur in a position which is typical of a noun. So one of you may say right now that he wants to blackmail you is the subject, which is correct. Isn't it like it's supposed that the subject is a noun, just one word? So how could the subject be a full sentence or a full clause? That's why it's called a nominal clause. So it replaces a noun here. This noun is the subject of the sentence. Let's move. I know that she will try again. So here, I is the subject, no is the verb. That she will try again is the object or the direct object of this verb. Again, the object here shall be a noun. And I replace this noun by a clause. So I call this clause a nominal clause. I think now it's clear. Let's move to the adverbial one. I will see them when I finish my work. So when I finish my work, if I'm going to ask about the function of this clause, starting from the word when, I finish my work, this clause is called, it's an adverbial clause. It's not a nominal clause because this is an adverb here in this sentence. It's not the subject, it's not the object. Let's move to the next sentence. Hunted close to extension. The rhino is once again common in this area. And in this session, we are going to discuss how I may compose such a sentence. Hunted close to extension. The rhino is once again common in this area. Before, I move to a next part. I want to ask you a very important question. Would you give me the structure or the original structure of this sentence? If I'm going to paraphrase it, how can you do so?
You mean the first clause?
Sorry?
Hunted clause to extension. I mean that this is a non-finite clause, so it's not. I think that the original one of it.
So, well, yes, it's a non-finite, but where is the original? This is completely fine. You're just close to it. So let's read what Hamada says here in the chat. Because the Reno has been hunted too close to extension, it's once again common in the area. Hamada is also too close. We can simply say that although kindly pay attention to the meaning. He says here that this animal, which is the Reno, is close to extension. However, it's once again common in this area. So we have here something that can be related and expressed by the word although, despite, however, something like this. But we have contradiction here. So I hope you get the idea. So I can say that the original sentence of this is
the hunted Reno is the hunted Reno.
I can say that the Reno was hunted close to extension. However, it's once again common in this area. Although the Reno was hunted close to extension, it's once again common in this area. However, this is not the question. It's not the core of the sentence. What I'm trying to tell you is, just imagine how this sentence was before we convert it, and now look at it. Can you compose such sentences in your English? If you can, so now you understand and you master transformational grammar. This is the point. So we can consider that all this information that we discussed up till now is just an introductory session or introductory part to the session. We didn't just, we haven't discussed how we can convert such sentences. I didn't say anything up to now. I'm just eliciting some information from you. Look at this map here and this chart. This is just to make it simple for you to understand the topic or the points that we're going to discuss. If I have a clause, I may ask you what is the type of this clause, and you will answer. Maybe this is a simple, a complex, a compound complex. This is so easy. I may ask you a different question. Tell me about the verb form in this clause, and you may answer saying, this clause has a finite verb, an infinite verb, a verbless clause. And of course, the word verbless means that we don't have a verb. There is no verb here. So if you remember, short time ago, Abdullah said something. He said that this clause, which is hunted close to extension, it's an infinite one. So what does it mean, non-finite? And what does it mean, finite? Can anybody of you help me?
Okay. So simply finite and non-finite clause, it means it's related to the clause which marked with the tense. So I can understand from this verb or this clause the time or the period of this verb, whether it was in the past or in the present.
Thank you. So what Abdullah says right now is the finite clause has a verb, and from this verb I can say that this verb is in the present tense, is the past, or in the past tense, or whatever. So I know the tense, and also I may know the person. So if I ask you, the word is here, this is a verb. Is trying, you know the tense, it's a present. To be precise, it's present continuous. And of course, you know the person, because the person is third person, because we have this is. Of course, is the verb that goes to the third person pronoun he. What about the non-finite one? It's the opposite, the absolute opposite of what Abdullah said. I have a verb, but this verb will not tell me anything. Maybe it's an ing verb, an en, and en I mean the past participle form of the verb. And maybe it's infinitive. And yes, the infinitive is one of the non-finite clause. For example, to spoil your dress would be a pity. So the word spoil, this is a verb. To spoil your dress, the bold one here and the bold clause here is a noun clause that functions as the subject of the sentence. Would be is the verb of the sentence. A pity, a subject complement. To spoil, is it a finite or non-finite? Of course it's a non-finite. Is it an ing, en infinitive? It's an infinitive one. Can you tell me what is the tense of this one? Of course not. You don't know the tense. Can you tell me what is the person? Is it a first person? Is it a second person or a third person pronoun? Of course you don't know anything. You just know that this is a non-finite verb in the infinitive form. That's the point. Look at the third sentence here. When
ripe, these apples will be delicious.
Yes, it's when ripe, these apples will be delicious. So what is the point here? When ripe means that when these apples are ripe, they will be delicious. What happens? When ripe, these apples will be delicious. And what is the point here? I have a clause, when ripe. Where's the mouse? Yeah. When ripe is a clause. What type of a clause is this? Is it a nominal clause? Is it an adverbial clause? It's an adverbial clause. So if I'm going to speak about the verb of this clause, is it a finite one, a non-finite one, or verbless one? It's a verbless, because we don't have a verb here. When can I omit the verb? When can I delete or go without this verb? I will discuss this with you like after some time. This is just to tell you about the different, and we can say the broad lines that we're going to go through. So I have here also the subject, and the subject can be expressed, can be suppressed. What does it mean? It's so simple. It speaks about itself. A subject which is expressed, you can see it, you know the subject of this verb. And the subject which is suppressed, you don't have the subject here. Of course you may guess the subject, but at least it's not expressed in the sentence. Okay? This is clear, I think. For example, to spoil your dress. Where is the subject here? Don't tell me that it's you. I don't know. I didn't say who is going to spoil. So there is no subject. It's the subject here is suppressed. When ripe, where is the subject? Yes, I know that the subject is the apples, but the apples is the subject of will be, not the subject here. So the subject here is deleted, is omitted, and I know it because I can guess from the whole context. That's the point. So again, to sum up everything, we have different types of clauses. Simple. We can say that we have parameters, different parameters to categorize our clauses. The first one is complexity. Is it simple, complex, compound? The second one is the function of the clause. Is it a nominal clause? Is it adverbial? The third one is the verb form. Is it finite or non-finite or verbless? And the fourth and the last one is the subject. Do I have the subject expressed or suppressed? That's everything.